I asked you for your board game hot takes, and we've got people calling out the entire gaming community, declaring a vendetta on multiplayer solitaire, and making bold claims about the objectively best game ever. And to rank your glorious, unhinged opinions, I'm using the classic mint to ghost pepper scale. So anyways, let's begin. Hot take number 1. From Greg White 6005. Board gamers claim they love the social element, but want people to SCFU about everything non-game related during the game. Oof, Greg White 6005 is coming in swinging. He hits hard because he's calling out a contradiction most of us don't want to admit. We love to talk about how board games bring people together, how they create these wonderful social experiences. It's all about spending time with friends, we say. While internally, we're screaming when Jenny starts a 15-minute monologue about her cat's digestive issues during our perfectly planned brass turn. And we've all been there, those moments where you just want to draw everyone's attention back to the board. And it reminds me of that viral TikTok of a guy looking genuinely distressed while people were chatting instead of playing their turns. I felt that guy's pain. And that is the face of a man whose soul is slowly leaking out of his ears. He was probably so excited to get people playing his favorite game, and instead the game just became background noise to the chitty chat of life. Also, quick side topic, but do any of you experts know what game they're playing? I think it's Catan based off the box on the side, but there's not a lot of space, so let me know what you think. Now, there's actual research on this topic. A study on autism in board games found that participants appreciated how the structure of board games enhanced their ability to socialize. By being able to focus on a game, interactions were less nebulous. Games provided common ground in conversation, where there was no need to worry about small talk. And while this study focused on autistic individuals, I think the benefits discussed in the paper apply to a wide range of people. Games create this comfortable social container, clear rules, defined interactions, structured conversation. And when that container shatters, when someone derails the game conversation into life conversation, it creates this weird anxiety where some people are unsure if we're playing the game or if we're actually just hanging out. Now, of course, games and socialization come on a spectrum. Some games are very much vehicles of conversation for real life. Think about the game Wavelength. That's a social game done right. You're talking about perception, you're making connections, you're having revelations about how your friends think, but it's all channeled through the game's structure. Compare that to a game like Food Chain Magnate. If someone starts talking about their actual job during Food Chain Magnate, they're basically committing a social crime. This game demands intense focus on optimization, and any shifts in conversation to real life will break that focus. Now, the uncomfortable truth that Greg is highlighting is that we've created this cognitive dissonance. We say we want social gaming, we want our friends around the table talking, but we really want controlled social gaming focused around the game itself. And this really isn't a secret. We love that magic circle. We know that there's a social container that's created, and it's made through the cardboard and ink of the board game itself. Maintaining that circle is often the key to a fun, exciting game night. And you know what? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with wanting focused game time. The problem is that we're not entirely honest about it sometimes. We might pretend to like when people chat about life in games, and it's not really something that's wrong or right. It's just wanting different things from this hobby. And I think I'm lucky. In my groups, we usually chat as people arrive, maybe when we have some snacks, but the moment when people gather around that table, everyone is hyper-focused on the game. But in your own group, is this a common problem? Do you encounter people or groups that just always deviate away from the game conversation into live chats? Does it annoy you? Is it something that's actually a problem, or is it actually a benefit? So yeah, I'm gonna give Greg's opinion a ghost pepper. His take is scorching. It's brutally honest and controversial. Although, yeah, there's some truth to it amongst the jadedness. Hot take number 2, from Dead Substance. Multiplayer solitaire Euros are objectively worse board games than other types of board games. By having no interaction, the game essentially becomes a solo puzzle, something akin to a crossword puzzle or Sudoku. Makes it less of a game. That's not bad, but Board games shine when they're about interacting with the people sitting around you. And speaking of games where you'd prefer you didn't interact with people, our next hot take comes from Dead Substance, who takes on the entire modern Eurogame establishment. First, the appeal of multiplayer solitaire games. It's a real and potent appeal. You build your little engine, you optimize your tableau, and nobody can really swoop in and destroy the beautiful plan you've spent the past 2 hours crafting. It's almost reminiscent of how we all collectively played Wordle in 2022. It was this beautiful moment of communal puzzle solving without any risk of sabotage. It was comforting. And I get it. Sometimes you just want to come home after a long day of dealing with people in real life and just optimize. You want to arrange your wingspan birds in perfect harmony while your friends do the same at their own little player boards. It's parallel play for adults, and there's something deeply peaceful about it all. But Dead Substance raises a crucial point. When you strip away player interaction, what separates a board game from a crossword or a word search? If I'm playing Welcome To and barely glancing at what other players are actually doing, am I really playing a social board game or just doing an expensive artisanal game of bingo? Now, of course, I must clarify, Euro games are not inherently low interaction, but there is a genre of these low interaction games that can generally be classified within the Euro game clade. So for this hot take, I'm specifically referring to those low interaction Euro games. And think about your most memorable gaming moments. I'll bet none of them are that time you efficiently converted wheat into 3 victory points. No, they're moments of betrayal, of shock, of glorious undeserved victory, of players interacting with each other. Like that time in one of my games where we were playing Battlestar Galactica and Kate drew a Cylon card and we watched the light physically drain from her eyes midway through the game. Or when a noble sacrifice in Nemesis from a lonely janitor carries the entire team to victory. Everyone has a moment that lives in group chats and in jokes, and you can't really get that emotional peak from arranging cards, no matter how satisfying the combo is. Now, before all of the Eurogame fans organize a finely optimized protest in the comments, here's where I think Dead Substance goes a little too far with the objectively worst claim. Some of the most elegant and brilliant game designs are relatively low interaction. And truthfully, some of us are interaction averse for good reasons. High interaction games create the best moments, but also create the worst moments. Getting ganged up in route or arcs because you're perceived as a threat isn't fun. It's just frustrating. And at least in multiplayer solitaire games, if you lose, it's because someone optimized better than you, not because the table decided you were too threatening. Also, the little bit about less of a game, it's not really how I see it. A game can be played entirely solo, but still remain a full-on game. I do think there's a discussion to be had on what exactly a game is, but I'm going to save that for another hot take in a future video. So where do I stand? To me, the worst gaming experiences happen in high interaction games, but so do the absolute best ones. On the other hand, multiplayer solitaire games live in the safe middle ground of pretty good, but rarely become transcendent. It's like the bell curve meme. On one side, you have brutal player elimination and feel bad moments. In the middle, you have those pleasant Euro game optimization puzzles. And on the far end, you have those legendary game nights that become inside jokes for years. This take has real merit. It pokes fun at a genuine weakness in a beloved genre. But calling them objectively worse and less of a game is missing the mark a little bit. So this hot take lands right on habanero. It's still really spicy. Our third hot take comes from Pulpe Malad, I think. Most games are balanced around X number of players and are basically unplayable at other numbers of players. And the actual number written on the box is always misleading and frustrating. This is barely a hot take because it's so painfully obviously true. Publishers want to cast the widest net possible, so they engage in a beautiful fiction where technically functions with X players becomes plays at X players. And picture this scenario. You see 1979's classic Dune in your local game store, and it says right on the box, 2 to 6 players. Perfect. My partner and I can finally try this legendary game that everyone raves about. Then, an hour later at home, you're staring at each other across an empty desert, wondering why this supposedly amazing masterpiece feels completely broken and boring. The entire political intrigue, the economic flow, the asymmetry that makes a game like Dune special completely evaporates. Or a game like Seven Wonders. The first edition actually had an expert 2-player mode that was removed in the second edition because it was just that awkward to play. This realization that player count on the box doesn't match player experience leads to terrible experiences set by these unrealistic expectations. And I think this problem has been very much acknowledged by people as a whole. And even on BGG, there's a very clear area where it states the optimal player amount as per the consensus of people who actually play the game. So I think it's a little silly for publishers to try to get around this by saying, yeah, sure, I mean, technically it works for 2 players, so might as well put it on the box. The only real spicy part of this is that it's for most games. But even then, I think there is some truth to that. For example, those multiplayer solitaire games we were talking about. I think most people do believe there is an optimal player count designed around those games. So yeah, this is spot on. Almost every game has an optimal player count where the design truly sings. This hot take gets minty. It's refreshing, it's truthful, and it's going to be hard to find people who disagree with this. Hot take number 4 from Murfall2224, who says, "It is way more fun grinding out games, getting to know deeply about their strategies and trying to master them than to play a new game every week." The eternal philosophical battle that's been raging since the dawn of every board game group's conception. Team depth versus team breadth. Those people who say, let's play this game again next week, versus those other people who say, let's try another game next time. And look, as someone who makes content about board games, I am absolutely guilty of being a high priest in the cult of the new. My constant search for new games and novel experiences, it's a real thing and it's concerning. Plus that hit of dopamine when a new mechanic clicks, when your brain forges a new neural pathway to understand some bizarre iconography, it's all satisfying from an evolutionary perspective. The pink goop that is our brain is rewarding us for learning new things, and it all feels good. But there's something neat about what Murfall is describing though. My regular group, for example, has been playing Root for a long time now, and our games aren't just games anymore. They're like strategic dances of asymmetrical faction warfare. We're not stumbling through rule explanations or trying to remember what a card does. We're 3 moves ahead, leveraging months and months of meta knowledge. It's way less, how does this rule work? And it's way more, how can I convince Dave into thinking Anita is the bigger threat? Or take Blood on the Clocktower. The very first few games, you're just trying to understand how your role interacts, and you're grasping the subtle interactions within each script. After 20 games, you're reading micro-expressions, you're tracking information, and you're crafting elaborate deception narratives. The game becomes this incredible psychological playground that would be impossible to access as a one-and-done experience. And on the other hand, some games peak early and then become repetitive. I love Ticket to Ride, but after 30 plays, I'm not discovering new strategic depths. I'm just executing optimal train placement with minor variations. And while it's still pleasant, it's not growing anymore. I've optimized the fun out of it. And the magic is knowing which games reward deep exploration, and which ones are better experienced more broadly. Wingspan is a lovely game, but I don't need to play it 100 times to appreciate its charms. Go, on the other hand, has been studied for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and people are still discovering new depths. Here's my take on Murfall's hot take. The healthiest approach is probably having 3 or 4 anchor games that your group can love and dive deep into, supplemented by regular new experiences to prevent stagnation and to expose you to different design philosophies. The danger of pure depth focus is that you might miss incredible innovations happening in game design. Some of the most brilliant mechanics of the past few years might never cross your radar if you're grinding the same games forever. But the danger of breadth focus is that you never get to experience the deeper strategic layers that make this hobby special. You're skimming across the surface of a bunch of experiences without diving into the profound depths any of them have to offer. That said, if you have to pick a side, are you team depth or team breadth when it comes to gaming? My middle ground approach works for me, but I know some groups really lean one way or another, so let me know. That said, for this hot take, I'm going with Ginger. It's a pleasant, warm kick, but there's definitely a balance to be found. Hot take number 5. Next up, from Aaron in real life. The more expansion a board game gets, the more unattractive the overall game appears. The ungodly amount of expansions for board games such as Catan and Ticket to Ride convolute the experience that the base game had set out to achieve. Oh, interesting. There's definitely a kick to this one. I get it though, a lot of really strong base games have this sense of elegance and simplicity that is best experienced without the bits and bobs that can be slathered on. Like how this person mentioned Catan. You could really bring that out and play with almost anyone. But then you see seafarers, traders and barbarians, explorers and pirates, cities and knights. Plus, there's a bunch of scenario packs and endless spin-offs and little side versions, and this small manageable island that you started off with starts to feel sprawling and intimidating in a way that can be just counterproductive to the game's strengths. Or even worse, I can't even keep track of how many expansions a game like Dominion has. I think it's like 15 or something. But it seems like you need an actual physical file drawer just to keep these cards organized. This is feature creep in its purest form. Each expansion adds one or two cool thing, but suddenly your rulebook has tripled in size and setup takes an extra 30 minutes. And that focused identity that made the game so good gets buried under 17 different modular components. It's kind of like there's an expansion event horizon, wherein every game has a point where additional content moves from enhancement to overwhelming. It becomes so suffocating that new players can no longer enter the game's ecosystem without some serious effort from them. And it's like a form of choice paralysis even before the game begins. Questions like, do I get the base game, or with this bright and shiny expansion, or with these two new factions, or this or that? It's a form of stress stemming from abundance of options, a paradox of choice. Picking a game is hard enough when there's so many good options out there. And then when you have choices within a game's purchase, it adds more complexity to what should be a simple decision. Just look at any board game online forum. The question, which version of Dune Imperium and expansions should I buy, is a weekly occurrence. And to new hobbyists, it's a maze of choices before the box is even open. But it all goes back to our core curse of our time, FOMO. Playing the base game alone can feel inferior. And there's always this weird sensation that with that expansion or this expansion, the game is so much better. Even when the base game is excellent, that feeling is something that we always have, where something feels lacking. That said, there are obviously many benefits to expansions. For games people truly love, it can breathe new life into them, offering fresh strategies, new challenges, and a reason to dust off an old favorite, like Prophecy of King expansions for TI4, or how each Root expansion gives uniquely designed factions that completely invigorate the game. And sometimes expansions fix things. They might smooth out rough edges from the base game or add some variety, or provide specific modules that cater to different player tastes. Publishers also keep successful games in the public eye and in print with this new content, which for dedicated fans is often a welcome thing. So the line seems to be between enhancing and overwhelming. When an expansion feels like a natural, thoughtful extension, it's usually a win. When you need a spreadsheet to figure out which of the 17 expansions are compatible with each other and which scenario packs and character add-ons are necessary, then yeah, that initial appeal of the core game can definitely get lost in the noise. So this hot take from Aaron captures a frustration almost every gamer has felt. That confusion of what expansion to get, the muddying of an original game, and the relationship we all have with FOMO. But I also can't deny I love when my favorite games get a great expansion. So for this, it's an even heated hot take, and I'm going to give it a jalapeno. It's a solid take with some heat, but still pretty mild. Hot take 6 and 7. Here we have a 2-for-1 hot take from Pure Puro and Thomas Shantgen 5124. Pure Puro says, "There's no game superior to Go. No elaboration because it is self-evident." Thomas Shantgen 5124 says, "Spirit Island is the best board game ever created." Oh, what a beautiful thing. Two people completely convinced they discovered the objective truth about the best game ever made. And they're arguing for games that couldn't be more different if they tried. Let me break down what each person is really saying. Team Go, Piro, he says, I value elegance, timeless strategic depth, and games that have been perfected over millennia. I want pure strategy, distilled to its essence. Simple rules that create infinite depth. On the other hand, Team Spirit Island, Thomas Shantgen 5124 says, I value modern design innovation, thematic integration, and games that solve contemporary problems. I want complex systems that work together harmoniously, asymmetric powers that create unique experiences, and cooperative gameplay that builds relationships. Neither of these preferences is wrong. They're just revealing what each person values in their gaming experience. Go is kind of like a perfectly crafted haiku. Minimal words, maximum impact, endlessly interpretable. It's the same game that was played 2,000 years ago, and it will likely be the same game that's played 2,000 years from now. And there's something beautiful about that permanence and purity of game. Spirit Island is more like a modern fantasy epic novel series. It's intricate, it has world building, it's complex with characters and development and innovative and narrative. And it has new game design techniques that just weren't possible in earlier eras. It solves design problems that didn't even exist when Go was invented. And here's the thing about the best game ever and these declarations. They tell us way more about the person making them than about the games themselves. Both statements are personality reveals disguised as objective assessments. And that's fine, that's totally fine. Your favorite game is a window into your gaming soul. And of course, I would be remiss without saying they're both wrong. Because the objective, scientifically proven best game of all time, without a doubt, is Camel Up. End of discussion. So yeah, in essence, I think these kind of statements aren't really spicy, but instead more of an expression of your own values and what you look for while playing. But again, I wouldn't read much into this. It's not like what game you think is a indicator of morality or self-worth. It's more just an interesting window into seeing what kind of mechanics and themes you appreciate in the vast ocean of games. So yeah, declaring a game as the best one ever, it isn't so much a hot take as much as it is a passionate declaration of love. It has that sharp, sudden kick of conviction that hits you right in the nose, but fades away quickly. And that's why these two takes land directly on wasabi. Now, before we wrap up, I'm throwing my own hot take into the fire, and let's hear it. If you're not playing to win, you're disrespecting the game and everyone at the table. And I don't mean be a jerk about it, but playing to win is the ultimate act of respect. It honors the game design and it honors your friend's time. Phoning it in isn't being nice. It's just bad sportsmanship. By not playing to win, you're not engaging with the mechanics at their full potential. And if you start throwing, it kind of ruins the enjoyment from other people. On the other hand, no one should ever be mad about playing a game well. So do your best. Play the game as if you want to win. That's the best way to actually enjoy and experience a game. Anyway, let me know if you agree or if you think I'm completely wrong about this one. Love to hear your thoughts. So there we go. Are there even hotter takes burning a hole in your brain right now? Have I been completely mistaken and totally wrong on all accounts? Let me know your spiciest, most unhinged board game opinions in the comments. The more ghost pepper, the better. And as always, thank you for your opinions, and thank you for watching, and bye.